right? So you are in midlife, you are going through menopause, you know that you need to make some changes, you need to have some sort of routine in place, but you're having a difficult time either getting started or you get started but you have a hard time sticking with it. So I'm going to talk to you about what I see from my perspective as the one thing that we need to do in terms of our mindset and how we approach things so that we can actually stick with this. All right. So, and the place where I want to start talking about this has to do with looking first at what we often do, because when it comes to health and when it comes to like routines, we often are coming from a place of like either maybe it's no pain, no gain, right? That's a very common thing that unfortunately many of us grew up with. And if it's not that, then it's also this idea of, well, let me just go and maybe just find a routine or some tips from somebody else, right? Maybe you see a video, you see something from somebody else who has the same exact symptoms, for example, that you're having. They say what worked for them, and so you just try to copy and paste that into your life, and then you do it, and you struggle to stick with it. And what I have come to realize for myself, and even just from observing other women, is that the thing that makes it difficult to stick with a routine is not so much that you don't have motivation or desire, right? Like if you're alive, if you're human, you have the desire to change. It's just a human thing, right? Whatever is happening in your life that you don't like, you want it to change. So that's not usually an issue. Where the challenge is that we're not necessarily coming from it or going at it from a place of curiosity. And ultimately, for me, curiosity is the thing that changes having a routine from being this hard work and this to-do list to just being something that just flows and becomes a natural part of your life, and it becomes like a non-negotiable in your day. All right. And so why curiosity? Well, because when you are curious, you are approaching things with an open mind, because now you're not attached to anything. You ultimately don't give a shit what works or doesn't work, because you're just like, I'm just here to be present with my body, to see how it responds to these different things that I present to it, whether those different things are a food, an herb, a certain type of exercise, right? Whatever it may be, but you're just being curious and you're like, I keep an open mind, I'll try it. If it's helpful, I'll keep it. If it's not helpful, I'll throw it away. And that makes the whole thing so much easier. And also because when you're curious and you're in that state of mind, you are now involved, because the thing with having a routine is this is something that you've got to keep up with for the rest of your life, right? So if you only approach it from, I just need somebody to just tell me what to do, which is helpful to get started, but to sustain it doesn't always work. If all we do is we just try to take what is working for somebody else and apply it to us, then you that there's nothing there that's you, right? Like, because that person is different from you, even if their symptoms physically are the same, right? Medically, but their life story, their tolerance for certain foods or intolerance to certain things, like, their medical history, their current situation in life, like everything about that human being. And there are 8 trillion cells, or not 8 trillion, but there are trillions. There's 8 billion of us, but there are trillions of cells are not the exact same as your trillions of cells. So if you just try to replicate somebody else's routine, it can backfire over time, right? Um, and so this is where that curiosity can be so helpful, because it it you stay open, because the truth is there is no shortage of modalities and therapies and things that can help transform us when it comes to our health. All right, there really is no shortage of it, but the challenge is finding ways. Sorry, I just need to adjust my light because it is so bright and in my face. The challenge is for us to make sure that we're putting more of ourselves in that decision process, and not, again, not just doing it as if we are a project, because it is no fun when you try to make yourself a project and just turn yourself into a to-do list of things that just must be crossed off every day. That's not fun. That's also an easy way to just fall off the wagon, get bored, or find some reason to not keep up. Okay. So that is, in a nutshell, why to me curiosity is so essential. Now, the other part of this that what I want to do is like to give you an example of what I mean. So if I take my own self, for example, I have a morning routine that I stick to no matter what. That morning routine is built out of the same principles that I share and guide women through in my community for women over 40, right? So in that community, I have these three pillars, which is nourish, move, replenish. So nourish in terms of what we eat and herbs, move in terms of movement, physical, exercise, and replenish in terms of the things we do to feed ourselves and restore our energy. So whether it's the more spiritual practices and walking in nature and things like meditation, right? So those are the three buckets. My morning routine is focused on two of those three buckets, which is I focus on movement and I focus on replenishment. That's how I start my day every day, no matter where I am in the world, no matter what I'm doing. But it stays at that high level, okay? And then what happens is I wake up in the morning and I basically scan my system, right? I get curious and I'm like, okay, how are we feeling today? Right? Like either how are we feeling? Did we sleep well? Are we agitated? Are we looking forward to the day or not? The meetings we have or not? What sort of state of mind do we need to be in for today? But I scan it. I don't decide that the night before. I scan it when I wake up in the morning. And based on what I feel and observe in my system, that is going to determine what I do for the specific movement and the specific replenish activity. So some days my movement is going to be I get up, I go straight out and I take a walk. Other days I'll get up, I'll do Qigong first and then I'll do a walk. Or I'll get up, do some yoga and then do the walk after. And you'll notice walking is the one thing that I do not negotiate on because I must go outside, and whether it is, unless it's pouring rain, even when it's cold, I am, 30 degrees, I am out there with the hat, the whole thing bundled up. Like I must go out and get air and be with nature. So that's a non-negotiable. But I do some kind of movement. And so, and I don't really I just put the walking as just part of living and not so much, it is movement, but I'm not doing it purely for that. It's truly for it's also, my mental and spiritual well-being. And it just, and the vitamin D and all the other things that I'm just not going to get from sitting indoors, just trying to look cute sitting indoors. So I make sure to go outside when that happens. And I make sure to start my day with some kind of movement. And I also then decide, okay, what kind of replenishment activity do I want to do? Now, to some degree, movements like Qigong or like yoga, anything that's mindful, even walking in nature, those are also replenishing. But for me personally, I've realized that I also need to really just do a formal practice as in a meditation. And again, it's out of curiosity. It's out of observing what happens on the days when I skip meditation, right? So the only reason I've come to the conclusion that meditation is so important for me is because on the days I do skip, I notice a massive difference. So now it has become clear to me that, okay, Jermaine, for you, your mornings, your days must start with some amount of movement, some amount of replenishment. Some days it's a 10-minute meditation. Some days it's a hour 15 meditation. This is where I'm doing like Joe Dispenza's meditations, right? So the duration, of the exercise, the replenishment, the specifics of it. If it's movement, some days I'm belly dancing, doesn't matter, but that gets determined in the moment, right? And what I find is that that makes things easier because I don't wake up feeling like I must do this specific thing. Because I used to have that, when I was in my 20s, going to the gym, there was this thing of like, okay, today we're going to do legs and we're going to do, upper body and all that type of stuff, right? And it has its place. I learned from that form of discipline and motivation. But by the time I got to like 29, 30, I was already bored to death with that approach, right? So I've spent the rest of my time since then, almost 2 decades, doing things more in the flow, and it's just easier. And then again, it works when you're traveling, it works when you're in a different space, and so you don't feel restricted, right? And because you're not restricted, that's why it becomes sustainable, because now it's your play box, it's your space to play. So even though it's a routine, and a routine typically means a predefined set of steps, what I want to encourage you to do is just say, no, these are like the big buckets, right? So I'm just going to do a movement and I'm just going to do a replenishment activity. What that is, I don't know yet. And the only way to make that sustainable and not be boring is that you try things every now and then. So sometimes every few months I'm changing something, not intentionally, just because the need arises. Okay. But I have created for myself a buffet. That's how I think of it. I have a buffet of things that I can pick from. And this is also like the same thing that I teach and guide women through in the membership is every month we are experimenting with some other activity, right? So, this month we did, today is the last day of us doing a Abhyanga, which is a body massage practice from Ayurveda, right? So it's both a self-care, supporting your nervous system, and also just taking good care of the skin. It's like a ritual that covers both. Previous month, we did some stuff around supporting the sleep with movement, right, and replenishment. So every month, we're doing something different for just 7 days. And the goal is so that everybody gets exposed to something else, something new. They try it for 7 days. So it's not a full month commitment. It's just 7 days. You see how you like it. I provide tips on little tweaks to make. Some members get creative on their own and they start making their own little adjustments. And either way, what happens then is at least you get a taste of that activity, and then you can determine, do I want to continue it past those 7 days? And in what way, right? And so month after month, you gather and collect those experiences. And maybe you try one thing and, maybe a member will try one thing and be like, yeah, that wasn't for me, and they won't return to it. Well, no problem, right? So, because think about something like exercise. Like I said, you could go for a walk, you could belly dance, you could go to the gym, you can go to a spinning class, you can go to some other type of dance class, you can go hiking, you can go swimming, you can do Tai Chi. There are a lot of different things that you can do for movement. Same thing with even like replenishment. You can do all kinds of forms of meditation, not just sitting down, but walking meditations. You can turn cooking into a meditation, right? You can do like the dervish, for some reason the word is only coming to me in French, but the dervish, I don't even know what it's called in English anymore. But yeah, there's like a tradition from Sufism, right, where these men like are spinning around, and it's part of a spiritual practice. If you wanted to try that, you could. There's no limit of things. But if you don't get curious first and just try things so that you can create your own buffet of things, so that on the days where maybe you have a lot of energy, you decide, I'm going to do this. On the day where you have less energy, you make a different choice. Or on the day where you're short on time, right? You need to be able to have that buffet for yourself. And that then makes it easy. And you don't now worry about, oh, I skipped this and I missed this. And because you haven't set strict rules on like, I must exercise for 30 minutes or for an hour, and it must be at this intensity, because it is not the thing that you do that one day that matters. It's the accumulation and the consistency of it. So your ability to just be consistent with a routine, regardless of the specific details of it, is what then transforms your health and is what then makes it sustainable for you. So I hope that this concept made sense and that it is helpful for you, because I know that, again, whether you've had a routine pre-menopause or not, like, we know that there is a need for things to change during this time of life. Okay. And one of the risks and one of the tendencies is that we also can try to double down on what we had done before and say, well, this used to work, even 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So if I just try to do more of it, then that should work, right? Like weight loss is a very good example, where oftentimes in midlife, it's like, okay, a lot of women have been trained to count calories and all these things and deprive. And so it's like, well, let me just do more of it. And it just backfires. And it's logical, because the truth of the matter is, whatever habits got us to this point of life are most likely not going to be the exact same habits that get us through it and into the next one, in a way that is easeful and graceful. Is more logical that we are going to be required to step into some new habits and into some new ways of being. So the things that we did so far, they were not wrong. They made sense for them. Now the biology is shifting. We just need to shift with it. It sounds simplistic, but it really does boil down to that. And so get curious. Yeah, get curious about, what is it currently that you are doing when it comes to your routine, and what changes could you make in how you're approaching it, right? Like, have you heard about a practice that maybe you shut out because it doesn't fit, let's say, a paradigm that you've always carried, right? And because, again, that can get in our way. I had this experience recently in my group, where somebody did not want to participate in something, in the sense that um, it didn't match up with them as far as their religious experiences. And this was ultimately just something that was a body massage, right? But it was coming from a tradition that was different from their tradition, right, as far as religion goes. And so they didn't feel comfortable doing it. Okay. And that makes sense, right? It's a personal choice. And we all have our priorities and our value systems in life. So that part is it's a valid point to say, I don't want to do any of this because of that. However, the other thing for us to remember is that when I talk about curiosity, like, it does mean that, we're all on this planet together, and we're all trying to make sense of this, right? So somebody in some other part of the world from another culture may have figured out something that will actually help you, right? Like, they may have actually figured something out that could potentially transform your life. And so when I make a video like this, it's to say that just stay open, because you never know where the answer you're looking for might come from. And it might come from the most unlikely place, right? But it's coming from another human. It's coming from another tradition that took the time to document this and pass it down, right? This is, and that's all we're here trying to do as humans, is we're just passing down knowledge. Okay, so that is also another aspect of the curiosity and staying open, is answers can come from different sources. And it doesn't mean that if you don't choose the thing that's in front of you right now, like, it doesn't mean that the door is shut, right? So but it does mean that in that moment you have made a choice to not experience something that at the end of the day is just a human experience of massaging the body, right? And so I think it's important for us that we make sure that we are able to make decisions each time in a way that really serves us and serves what our body also wants that time and the relief that we are seeking. All right. So I really hope that that makes sense to you in the way that I have presented it. So on that note, I want to thank you for watching, and I appreciate you for being here. And those of you who showed up live, as always, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, any thoughts, any insights, if you are somebody who has struggled with creating a routine for yourself, please do let me know in the chat, on the replay comments, because there's no one size fits all. And I know that it's so frustrating that there isn't, but there is a way to come up with your own formula. And that's really what I want to encourage you to remember, is that there is always a way to figure out what makes sense for you. Okay. But you just got to kind of take it in small steps and small bites at a time. So thank you for being here. And I look forward to seeing you on the next live. Take care.